This is a topic that's coming up a lot. What happens if the SEC goes to a one division conference? We've seen this through the years, but most recently we've seen it in the Big 12. And I'm going to talk about that and what it means for Georgia. But what it means for Georgia is what it's going to mean for everybody else. I mean, essentially, you're talking about a conference where the best two teams, the top two teams, are going to play in the championship game. Now, why? So why is this happening now? There's a couple of different reasons. Two mainly. Number one, the addition of Texas and Oklahoma in the 2024 season. Number two, probably more importantly, the college football playoff has expanded to 12 teams. The conference champions will go directly into the top four, or at least the top four conference champions, and then everybody else after that, well, they're not going right into the top four. In the future, it will mean that they will host a home game. As you can see, I've just finished working out in my Red Zone PE shirt, so-called PE shirt. If you like this sweatshirt, I literally use it to work out with. You can pick it up in the link down below. Um, I'm sure y'all are going harder than I am, though. I have to tell you, this is a quick and light workout tonight. Um, we've seen this in the Big 12, and I would say, generally speaking, it's worked out for the Big 12. For instance, the so-called best two teams this past year, Kansas State and Texas Christian. Kansas State upset TCU in the Big 12 championship in overtime, but it didn't affect TCU. In the future, that my understanding is that would mean both TCU and K-State would get in. Now, they'd probably get in anyway, but I think we'd have to see as things are tweaked moving forward what that would really mean in the SEC. When you don't have divisions, that means for sure that the schedule is getting tweaked. I'm going to talk about that on another. Well, I can talk about the SEC going to 9 games. There's multiple things happening at once. Really, three major things. There is the precursor is the addition of Texas, Oklahoma, and the expansion of the college football playoff. And the three things after that, if my math is correct, the three things after that is going to one division. Are you going to go 8 or 9 games? And who are the three permanent rivals, if you want to put it that way? Who are the three permanent foes if you go to a 6-3? If it's 9-1, 8-1 scheduling, I think we know who that would be for most schools. I don't know who that would be for instance, Texas A&M. I guess it would be Arkansas. I don't know who it would be for LSU in that scenario. So it gets a little jumpy with the 8-1, but with the 6-3, you have some answers there in many ways. And for those of you who have not watched yet, make sure you're picking up Double Dogs or at least check it out. This is at the printers right now. You're not too late to order it at all. 80 pages. An 80-page look at Georgia's national championship season in 2022. That's getting out to everybody who's ordered it very quickly. So make sure, if you've not seen Dog Post before, make sure you're taking a look at that today. So the long story short here is because Disney is going to be in control of everything in 2024, my pretty sensible feel here is that not only is the SEC going to go to a one division thing, which has been discussed a lot at the league level, but they will also go to a 9-game schedule, and that 9-game schedule will be in a 6-3 format. For Georgia, that means that they will be playing. That means they will be playing Alabama, LSU, Texas, and Oklahoma every other year. So, for instance, and it's not going to be exactly like I'm saying, so hold your criticism slightly on me here. In 2024, I would be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised if Georgia and Texas A&M didn't play. So let's just leave Texas A&M in this thing. So in that scenario, Georgia would play its three non-rotators. Now, I'm going to talk about this in another video, but we pretty much know that that's going to be Florida and Auburn. And the question is, who is the final team going to be? Is it going to be South Carolina, Vanderbilt, or Kentucky? It's likely to be those. It's well, let me. Is it going to be South Carolina, Vanderbilt, um, Kentucky, or Tennessee? It's not going to be Tennessee. So the yearly date with Tennessee, that is likely coming to an end. Okay, you can't play everybody. But the other 6 games, of which Texas A&M, Tennessee, Alabama, whoever is not picked amongst Tennessee, Carolina, and Vanderbilt, those teams will play Georgia every year, excuse me, every other year cycle. So what I mean by that is, if Georgia is going to Texas A&M, if Georgia is going to Texas A&M in 24, which I expect, it's not a certainty. Georgia goes to Texas A&M in 24, the Aggies will come to Athens in 25. Okay. That also means that wherever Georgia goes in 24, that's not Florida, Auburn, and in this just case, we're just going to say Vanderbilt. I mean, my suspicion is probably South Carolina or Kentucky, but I'm just going to say Vanderbilt so we can keep this moving. They will play in our scenario Vanderbilt, Florida, and Auburn every single year home, and then rotating home and away. And the scenarios where they're hosting in 24, they're going on the road in 25. So if they are hosting Texas A&M, excuse me, if they're going to Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and LSU, let's just say LSU, then that would mean they would likely hosting Missouri, Oklahoma, and why not Alabama? That'd be fun. So those games then would reverse the next year. So then you'd go to Alabama, go to Missouri, God forbid, and then I can't remember what I was saying, and then like A&M, Oklahoma, and blah 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 blah. So that's what you're looking at in terms of those 2 years in the cycle, 24 and 25. 26, then you would then play, then you would rotate those 6 completely. It is possible that the SEC will say with the 6 game, because the 6 game, the 6-3 model is very clean. You can play everybody in the league in a 2-year period. I wonder if they'll say, okay, sticking with the Texas A&M thing, all right, you're going to Texas A&M in 24, you will host them in 26. That way, if you're going to Texas A&M and hosting Alabama, the next year you will host LSU and go to Texas. And so in that scenario, everybody in the league would travel, would play, excuse me, every single team in the league in a 2-year stretch. So there would be no more, well, one way or the other, we're no longer going to have these scenarios where Georgia and Alabama play less often than Georgia, Missouri, or Georgia. I mean, it's just crazy what we've come up with in the SEC. Alabama, excuse me, Auburn and South Carolina have hardly played each other. Texas A&M has never gone to Athens. Has never gone to Georgia's never been to Texas A&M in a 12-year span. So there were all sorts of things that happened. A lot of people in Athens, for sure, remember that Georgia went back to back at Auburn in 12 and 13, and there was a reason why. Okay, there was 2 reasons why. Number one, Georgia wanted to play Auburn. Period. They were willing to sacrifice playing that game on the road in order to keep the game being played, because otherwise that game would have not been played in 2013. Number 2, the league asked them. So I don't think it was number 2. And then number 1, Georgia wanted to play the game. I have that on the most highest authority possible about that game. Now, because of that, though, that was probably the year that Georgia was supposed to go to Texas A&M, and it just didn't happen. They said, okay, well, we'll kick it down the road because we can balance. If people will eat it, a couple teams will eat it. Georgia was one of them, and Ole Miss was the other. If they'll kind of do back-to-backs, now, though, is the time. Auburn has been desperate to balance their schedule. Here's the opportunity for that to happen. It could be. I don't know that this will happen, but it could be that in Georgia's going to Auburn in 23 this coming season. It could be that the league says, well, we got to balance some things. Georgia's hosting Auburn back to back, and in 24 and 25, and then from that point forward, X, Y, Z. I don't know, but it gives you a fresh start for everything. And the 9 game schedule, I think, is an exciting thing if you are a business like Red Zone in Athens, link down below. If you are a person that owns rental property, if you have a business of any sort, from sort of rentals plantation, you want to draw a circle around Athens where people visit or whatever, it's those folks should be the most excited about the situation. But I don't know if this will change fundamentally the league necessarily. I mean, clearly it will, but you're not tiptoeing into the college football playoff. You're going to have to go through everybody, and you're not going to go through everybody every year. For instance, there could be years where you have 2 undefeateds, and they're not the best team in the league. I know that sounds crazy, but it's possible. So very improbable, however. So you could get a situation better explained. You could get a situation where you have 1 undefeated and 2 1 losses, and the 1 losses didn't play each other. And the winner of the championship game, of course, would then go in the top four. They're skipping a game. They wouldn't have that opportunity if you get left out of the championship game. So there is a lot of back and forth about this. But to me, that's why I think you have to keep close as many of the Georgia Auburns, I mean, Alabama, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU is going to be a jump ball. I don't know what they're going to do there. It should be Alabama, Tennessee, to be frank, but we'll see how the league handles it. And I would say, and we can talk about, I'm going to talk about this in another video. It would be pretty unfair for Alabama to have to play LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn all in the same set. That's a lot. Nobody else can be asked to do that, and I think that would be wrong.